The moment it happened, the store went silent. A luxury floor, spotless and calm, until a pregnant black woman doubled over, clutching her stomach as shock rippled through her body. Shoppers froze. Staff looked away. The manager didn't hesitate. Authority, cold and confident, moved faster than decency. Naomi tried to breathe through the pain, through the fear for the baby she was carrying, while eyes judged instead of helped. Then his voice exploded across the room. "Get out! Now!" No one stopped him. No one defended her. And the man who delivered that kick had no idea what he had just set in motion. Drop a comment and tell us what city you're watching from. Follow this channel for stories that don't look away when injustice shows its face. Naomi moved through her mornings with quiet discipline, the kind learned from living in a world that watched her closely. Pregnancy had slowed her steps, not her awareness. Every decision now carried weight: her health, her future, the baby she carried. Naomi Brooks didn't expect special treatment. She expected basic dignity. That expectation followed her as she stepped into the luxury store, a space that looked welcoming but operated on unspoken rules. The store was polished, controlled, and carefully guarded. Authority lived in body language more than words. Ethan watched the floor from a distance, already deciding who belonged and who didn't. Ethan Caldwell had learned how to enforce power without raising his voice, how to make discomfort feel official. Lauren noticed it too. Lauren Mitchell stood nearby, reading the room the way employees learn to alert, silent, careful not to cross lines drawn by people above her. Naomi felt it immediately. The shift in attention. The pause that came before judgment. This wasn't new. Naomi Brooks had learned to stay composed in spaces where scrutiny came faster than help. Her hand rested protectively on her stomach as she moved, aware that vulnerability often invited cruelty rather than care. Outside that space, lives were already in motion. Darius worked inside systems that responded when he called, but he wasn't here. Darius Brooks trusted that his wife could handle a simple errand without needing protection. That trust would soon be tested. The store's environment tightened as minutes passed. Staff avoided eye contact. Rules felt flexible, applied differently, enforced selectively. This was how exclusion worked when it wore a uniform. Naomi stayed calm, refusing to shrink, refusing to rush. That composure unsettled people who expected compliance. Elsewhere, eyes that would later matter were still unaware. Victoria reviewed reports that morning without knowing her attention would soon be required. Victoria Langford didn't chase conflict, but when systems failed publicly, she corrected them. Emily passed the storefront that same day without intention, unaware her phone would soon become a witness. Emily Mitchell had no plan to intervene until she had no choice. What unfolded wasn't sudden. It was layered, built from silence, confidence, and the comfort of bystanders. Even accountability was already waiting its turn. Allison would soon be called to document what others ignored. Detective Allison Reed had seen how quickly moments like this escalated. And when the damage was done, Jamal would step in to give it shape. Jamal Harris understood that injustice didn't disappear on its own. Naomi didn't know their names yet. But the tension told her one thing clearly. This wasn't going to end quietly. The tension didn't explode all at once. It crept forward, measured and deliberate, the way authority often does when it feels protected. Naomi stayed where she was, breathing carefully, one hand steady on her stomach. Her composure seemed to irritate Ethan more than anger ever could. Ethan Caldwell watched her the way gatekeepers watch boundaries, ready to enforce rules that only apply to certain people. Lauren shifted nearby, eyes flicking between Naomi and the manager. Lauren Mitchell knew this rhythm. She'd seen it before, the pause before escalation, the moment when dignity was mistaken for defiance. She said nothing. Silence had become a survival skill in spaces like this. The store's energy hardened. Customers slowed, sensing something was happening but unsure whether to intervene or enjoy it. Staff pretended to straighten displays that didn't need fixing. Naomi felt the weight of attention settle on her back. Not curiosity, judgment. Ethan took a step closer. Not threatening. Not yet. Just close enough to remind her who controlled the space. Naomi Brooks looked up, calm but unyielding. That calm disrupted the script. He expected retreat, apologies, gratitude for restraint. Instead, she stood. "You don't belong in this section," he snapped, voice sharp enough to cut through the room. The words landed heavy. Conversations stopped. A line had been crossed, and everyone knew it. Naomi didn't answer. She didn't need to. Her silence wasn't weakness, it was refusal. A few feet away, Emily paused mid-step. Emily Mitchell had been passing the storefront when she noticed the stillness inside. The way bodies leaned but didn't move. The way one voice dominated while others shrank. Her phone was already in her hand before she fully understood why. Ethan mistook the quiet for victory. Authority thrives on that mistake. He straightened, confidence growing louder as resistance failed to appear. "I said move! Now!" he barked. Lauren flinched. Not at the volume, but at the certainty behind it. This was no longer customer service. This was enforcement. She glanced around, waiting for someone else to step in. No one did. Naomi felt the fear rise then, not for herself, but for the life she carried. The air felt thinner. Her balance shifted slightly, instinctively protective. She spoke calmly, voice steady despite the pressure. "I'm not causing a problem." The statement was simple, reasonable, and completely ignored. Ethan leaned in, lowering his voice just enough to feel personal, but loud enough to humiliate. "Don't play as smart with me." That was the third strike, the verbal one. Bystanders froze. Some looked down, others looked on. The silence became participation. Elsewhere, forces that would soon matter were still unaware. Darius moved through his day assuming normalcy. Darius Brooks believed his wife could shop without being threatened for existing. That assumption was unraveling minute by minute. Outside, Emily raised her phone higher. She wasn't thinking about virality or consequences. She was thinking about proof. The manager's posture changed again. The confidence sharpened into something reckless. Authority, when unchecked, always overreaches. Ethan stepped closer, invading space that didn't belong to him. Naomi felt the room close in. "This ends now," he said. "Final and absolute." The words weren't loud this time. They didn't need to be. They carried removal, force, consequences. The store had chosen sides without speaking. In offices far from that floor, Victoria worked through reports with precision. Victoria Langford had spent years correcting failures that embarrassed institutions. She didn't know it yet, but her phone would ring before the day ended. Legal eyes were also absent for now. Jamal built cases for moments others dismissed. Jamal Harris understood that injustice left patterns long before it left paperwork. Naomi took one careful step back, trying to create space. The movement was slow, protective, calculated. It triggered something ugly. "Don't move," Ethan shouted, loud enough that even those pretending not to watch couldn't ignore it. That was the fourth. The last warning before violence. Lauren felt her stomach drop. This had gone too far. She looked toward security. They didn't move. The system was holding its breath, waiting to see how much it could get away with. Naomi's heart pounded. The room felt suspended, like a held inhale. Emily's camera stayed up. Every second stretched. No one intervened. No one stopped him. And in that silence, heavy, charged, complicit, the moment tipped forward, inevitable and unforgiving, toward an act that would change everything. The moment stretched longer than it should have. Time slowed as Naomi felt the air shift heavy, dangerous, final. Her body reacted before her mind could. She turned slightly, instinct guiding her to shield her stomach. That instinct didn't save her. The impact came without warning. A sharp force drove into her abdomen, knocking the breath from her lungs. Naomi collapsed forward, pain exploding through her body as fear followed close behind. The sound of it echoed across the polished floor. Not chaos shock, the kind that freezes people in place. Naomi Brooks gasped, hands trembling as they clutched her stomach. Panic surged faster than pain. Her baby. Her thoughts fractured around that single truth. The store didn't rush to help. No alarms, no hands reached out. Silence pressed in, thick and suffocating. Ethan stood over her, chest rising fast, authority still burning hot in his eyes. Ethan Caldwell hadn't processed what he'd done yet. Power does that. It delays reality. Hair out. "Now!" he shouted. That was the loudest moment, the last attempt to control what had already slipped away. Lauren moved without thinking. Her training broke. Her fear didn't. Lauren Mitchell knelt, unsure whether touching Naomi would make things worse, unsure whether intervention would cost her everything. She looked around, desperate for direction. None came. Across the storefront, a phone remained steady. Emily didn't lower it. Emily Mitchell felt her hands shake, but she kept recording. What she was capturing no longer belonged to the store. It belonged to the world. Naomi's vision blurred. Her breath came shallow and uneven. Pain radiated outward, but fear sank deeper. She whispered words no one had asked her to say, prayers, pleas, promises. This wasn't humiliation anymore. This was harm. That was when the room began to change. Not suddenly, not yet. At first, it was confusion. Customers backed away. Staff exchanged looks they could no longer hide. Someone finally moved toward the doors, not to help, but to escape. The illusion of control cracked. Security hesitated. Ethan noticed that hesitation. His confidence faltered, just for a moment. He glanced toward the windows and saw phones raised. Multiple. The posture he'd relied on, commanding, unquestioned, no longer worked. Naomi's phone vibrated weakly against the floor. Lauren picked it up, unsure, then saw the name on the screen. She didn't recognize the weight behind it, but it felt heavy. Across the city, Darius froze mid-step. Darius Brooks didn't need details. He didn't ask questions. He heard the strain in Naomi's breath, and something in him hardened into focus. Calls were made, not emotional ones, efficient ones. The shift didn't happen with noise. It happened with response. Within minutes, pressure arrived from directions Ethan didn't control. Messages came through store channels. Security radios crackled. Someone mentioned legal exposure. Another mentioned footage already spreading. Ethan's breathing changed. His stance loosened. The authority he'd worn like armor began to slip. The doors opened again. Victoria didn't rush in. She never did. Victoria Langford stepped into the space with measured calm, eyes taking in everything. The phone screens, Naomi on the floor, the manager frozen in place. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. Victoria Langford spoke once, steady and unmistakable. Step away from her. No one questioned it. Ethan turned toward her, words forming, then dying. Recognition hit too late. His confidence collapsed into calculation, fear replacing certainty. The room felt it. The system recalibrated in real time. Laura moved back as help finally arrived. Emergency voices cut through the silence. Naomi was lifted carefully, every movement deliberate. Her face was pale, but her eyes were open, watching, remembering. Phone stayed up. Security no longer blocked anything. Somewhere behind the scenes, Allison was already being looped in. Detective Allison Reed would see this footage soon. Every angle, every second. Jamal would follow. Jamal Harris built cases from moments like this. Patterns made visible. Ethan didn't move. He couldn't. The power he trusted had vanished, leaving him exposed in a room full of witnesses. As Naomi was taken out, the store no longer felt luxurious. It felt small. And as the doors closed behind her, one truth settled in. This wasn't the end of the story. It was the point of no return. The fallout was immediate, and it was permanent. By nightfall, Ethan was no longer issuing orders or hiding behind policy. Ethan Caldwell was escorted out under review, his authority stripped the same way he had tried to strip dignity from someone else. Security footage, witness recordings, and Emily's video left no space for spin. By the next morning, his name was gone from schedules, systems, and leadership channels. There was no quiet exit, no soft landing. Naomi woke up under hospital lights, pain still echoing through her body, fear lingering longer than bruises. Doctors monitored her closely. The baby was alive, but the risk had been real. Naomi Brooks didn't cry in front of cameras or staff. She didn't need to. Her stillness said enough. When Darius arrived, everything else faded. Darius Brooks stood beside her, not as a rescuer, but as proof that she was never alone. The silence that once protected cruelty didn't survive daylight. Emily Mitchell's footage spread before statements could be drafted. Lauren Mitchell came forward with what she saw and what she regretted not stopping sooner. That choice mattered. It shifted the narrative from rumor to record. Detective Allison Reed moved fast. Reports were filed. Charges followed. This wasn't framed as misunderstanding. It was framed as harm. And harm leaves consequences. Behind the scenes, Jamal Harris built what silence never could, a case. Not symbolic, not performative, documented, patterned, ready. His work ensured this wouldn't be buried as an isolated moment. When Victoria Langford spoke publicly, it wasn't emotional. It was procedural. Oversight was announced. Management replaced. Policies rewritten under pressure, not promises. Then came the broader reckoning. Councilwoman Rosa Delgado didn't call it unfortunate. She called it unacceptable. Hearings followed. Community oversight expanded. What happened to Naomi became a line that could not be crossed again without cost. Naomi didn't return to the store. She didn't need to. Her dignity had already outgrown that space. What she carried forward wasn't just survival, it was change. This story doesn't end with comfort. It ends with accountability. Because racism doesn't need loud hatred to thrive. It only needs silence. And the real question isn't whether injustice still exists. It's who benefits when people choose not to interrupt it. If this story made you pause, pass it on to someone who needs to hear it. Follow Black community struggles and support these stories by hitting like. Your action helps keep injustice visible.